Welcome back to Off the Curb. I am on the Jim Harbaugh merry-go-round with everybody else. And this is something I think we're all used to by now. At this point, we all understand what the game is with Jim Harbaugh. But my takeaway is that this time, for real, will be different. I think this is the time Jim Harbaugh actually leaves. But I will say with that asterisk that I have no idea, because you're trying to predict the behavior of a crazy person. So I'm trying to bring some sanity to the table here. It's not going to come from me. It's going to come from my friend Anthony Broome, the Wolverine, great friend of mine, great Michigan mind. Anthony, what the hell is going on with Jim Harbaugh right now?
Shoulder shrug. I mean, we're here again. It's another will they or won't they off season, what is now officially the third year in a row, and unofficially, again, really, it wasn't until last year where, he got on a plane last year. So just to start off, one of the major things I have, major issues I have with kind of people going after reporters, especially like Bruce Feldman and Nicole Auerbach and some of these people who have track records on reporting Michigan, that have connections at Michigan, at least nationally. I think going after the reporters is kind of lame. He got on a plane on National Signing Day last year to interview with the Minnesota Vikings. And I think if offered that job, he would have taken it. So, did he come out a month ago or so and say that he was, vehemently, or did he strongly say that he was going to be back at Michigan for 2023? Yeah, but he's qualified all of his comments like that over the last month or so, really even longer than that, with the phrase "no man knows the future." So there's always been a little bit of wiggle room there. Again, if you're, I'm sure we'll get into it. There's a part of me that thinks that because it seems so obvious that this might be the time that he actually leaves, pushes me in a direction where I'm still in the camp of I'll believe it when I see it. But again, this is the third off season in a row where, again, coming off the 2020 season, that you couldn't get much lower than that momentum wise, but this is back-to-back years. We're coming off of a Big Ten title, a college football playoff berth. You're already kind of shooting yourself in the foot with these questions about instability and what the future might look like. And that's it only happens at one place, and it only happens with one head coach. And here we are.
Yeah, I've been confused by people. I agree with you saying, "Oh, here we go," like another message board rumor. It's people are treating it like it's the old John Gruden, the Tennessee rumor that was a thing for 12 years. It's not that, for the reasons you said. We saw proof of his potential and near exit last year, as you mentioned. I believe the multiple reports, mainly coming from The Athletic last year, that he expected to go, was telling Michigan staffers goodbye and thank you for all you did. And I absolutely believe the reporting there. It's a fact that he went. That's not a rumor. That was confirmed by him in the school. So I don't understand the dismissal of it. At the same time, I have no problem with anybody saying, let's take a wait and see approach. Now, the question I have, it goes beyond whether Jim Harbaugh is staying or leaving. It's sort of the motivation here. My theory was just he's an NFL guy. He always wanted to win the Big Ten, beat Ohio State. He slayed that dragon back-to-back years both times. There was a news report that ran that sort of captured what I'm talking about here is the reasoning. It talks about John U. Bacon. I want Ben to run that, and then I want to get into that with you. Ben, can you run that, please?
Now we know that both the Denver Broncos and Carolina Panthers have had discussions with Harbaugh. The Broncos news broke on Sunday, and today word comes out that Carolina had a conversation with Panthers owner Robert Tepper and Jim Harbaugh. The third vacancy is Indianapolis. He played 4 seasons with the Colts. John U. Bacon, best-selling author and a man who's always at the forefront of Harbaugh's stories, went on Twitter last night and said the possibility of Harbaugh leaving for the NFL is real. Could even happen fast.
Okay, so that last, 10 seconds is what captured me. So, again, my theory was just he's an NFL guy. The Super Bowl's lingering for him. He kind of did what he came to do. But then that part about he's tired of the college game, which you and I both know John U's plugged in. He knows what he's talking about. But if you're tired of the college game, how is it not NIL, money, any of the recruiting stuff? Like, what is it then? What do you make of the reason why he would be tired of the college game?
Yeah, I don't know that I can. I can't confirm or deny, what John's saying about that. It would be weird to me to cite that as a reason for wanting to move on or go back to the NFL, because when you think about it, 3 or 4 off seasons ago, Jim Harbaugh was a guy that was at the forefront of the one-time transfer rule. He has publicly said he believes the players have the right to be compensated, and that even to go as far as to say that with this new TV deal that the Big Ten will have, that there should be like a revenue share that comes with it. Again, when I hear, things about the college game and frustrations, if there are frustrations about NIL and some of the changes that have come to college sports, to be frank with you, I think it might be with Michigan's administration and taking a slow moving, reactive approach to what NIL looks like, to what the transfer portal looks like, and they've made the best of it. I mean, this year they went and got 7 guys out of the transfer portal after that early window opened. So it's been something that's been embraced by that program, but I don't know. I think that's an it. If you've been at that level and you were a guy that is, Jim Harbaugh lives and breathes the sport of football. And if you've been so close to winning a Super Bowl, which is the highest honor that you can have at the highest level of the game, I can see why that itch would still be there. So I think when we hear things about the college game and some of the stuff that's involved with that might frustrate him, I have a hard time. I can't speak for Jim Harbaugh, but I think a lot of that might be directed at administration, to be frank with you.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I was confused reading the report because, Roy Williams, UNC, he denied it, but everybody around the program knew the NIL stuff was like he's retiring 2 or 3 years earlier than he anticipated. So if you're coming out and saying he's sick of the college game, but it's not recruiting, NIL, it's not dealing with the kid, it's like what's left. You said it. This is why I bring you on for this shit, Anthony. Maybe it is the administration. I don't know what your insight is. My perspective from conversations, and we have some overlap. I'm more plugged into the Michigan State side, but I have some toes in the Michigan pool. My takeaway from my conversations is that there has been something a step below animosity, sort of a quiet resentment there, some tension there for a number of reasons. When they approached him for the pay cut, they're mad at him because they're going through this shit every year with he might leave, will he, won't he? Do you think their relationship is bad, the Michigan administration and Jim Harbaugh? It's at least somewhat strained, right?
I can say confidently it was strained with Mark Schlissel. I know that it's been strained at times with Ward Manuel. I know Jim Harbaugh and the new president, Santa Ono, who is, as far as university presidents go, he hasn't been on the job for very long, but he is behind the scenes and outwardly been as active a school president when it comes to athletics that I've ever seen. So I kind of feel like there are kindred spirits there, but you do wonder if there are some of these administrative things that maybe, again, I'm speculating based on, informed opinion here, but I'll put it to you this way. When it comes to the Michigan athletic department and it comes to Ward Manuel, if Jim Harbaugh does leave, and even if he doesn't leave, because this has gone on for 3 years now, it will be, you have lost the best basketball coach in the history of your program, with, I won't say bad blood, but there was some stuff that went on behind the scenes there that left a bad taste in both sides' mouth. Eric Bakich, the baseball coach, similar things there. I don't think it would have taken that much of a pay raise to keep him at Michigan, and there was a hesitancy there to do that. And if there's here's my stance on it. If you have any qualms about paying Jim Harbaugh or giving him, because I do think that it's not about the money. I don't think it's directly about, okay, I'm going to go to the highest bidder. But, Michigan has, there would be, if Jim Harbaugh got the Mel Tucker contract tomorrow, I don't think anybody in the fan base would bat an eye at it. I don't think anyone nationally would bat an eye at it. especially with what he got, with what he's done over the last 2 seasons. If there is, if you have one of the top, we'll just say top 10 coaches at any level of the sport, I don't understand why. I think part of it is that it's not about the money, but coming forward with an offer that makes him one of the 2 or 3 highest paid coaches in college football and not nickel and diming him with having to earn it via incentives. I think that's a sign of respect or disrespect, whether you offer it or not. So I do think that there's something to it in terms of, just not really feeling the love from the administrative side of things. And let's call a spade a spade. I mean, Michigan is a program and athletic department that they, if they don't feel like you're all in on them, they'll just say, don't let the door hit you in the rear end on the way out the door. So, I kind of just feel like there's a lot of push pull in that regard going on right now.
Our Michigan sources, as you know, Anthony, were fighting. So my source was fighting with your source through intermediaries, meaning me. So, here's sort of the difference. My intel, if you will, is money is no object. Money will be there. That's not a problem. Your intel seems to be that there's at least some component of financials here. It's not just whether it's Hurts in the NFL. There's some kind of financial tie-in here. And when I brought up this is from our private conversation, when I brought that up to my source saying, hey, I'm hearing the opposite of what you're saying, he kind of shrugged and laughed and said that's wrong. But then he did pause and say, I don't know. You're talking about the ultimate mixed signal guy with Harbaugh. Like he could tell one person, yeah, I want more money, and tell someone else it doesn't matter. So maybe we're all kind of right and wrong at the same time. I mean, is it a money thing or not? Because I don't think it is, but that's just my informed speculation.
I don't know that it's okay. I'm going to go to the highest bidder, or this is what X team would offer. This is what I want.
Agree with that, but is there any component at all where he's not getting something he wants? Because I understand that it's not like I'm a mercenary going to the highest bidder. I understand that.
Yeah.
But is there is that a criteria in any fashion at all, or not?
I think there at least there's a small part in it. I think if the issue, like if it's a sign of respect to him to be offered a contract, like and I think it's more about the negotiation as opposed to the number. I do think that it's kind of one of those, like, this is what we're offering, no questions asked. We want you to be here forever. The last 2 contracts that Jim Harbaugh has signed really hasn't had that. I mean, even this year, he was it's all relative. I think he was somewhere in the middle of the Big Ten in terms of compensation, like $7 million a year. But
that's Castellani money.
Yeah, well, some people have a little more cheddar in their pocket than others. But I do think that money. I don't know that money is a direct factor, but I think it is something that plays into the respect, the feeling respected type of thing. Again, it's not about being the highest paid. I think it's about that there's always some kind of nickel and dime negotiation or something that's holding them back from going all the way. I don't think money's a factor, but I also think that there's been a little too much push pull where it should, in my opinion, should be no questions asked. You pay the guy at this point.
Gun to your head, and what's your guess here? I know you're not reporting anything, but if you had the guess, is he here next year or is he gone?
I think so, just because like last year was as serious as it ever got. I mean, he got on a plane, he went to Minnesota on signing day. I'm pretty sure they were like the Minnesota Vikings camera crew was like following around. I think there's a scenario where he really would have gotten that job. Because it's almost weird, like, because this is like almost the loudest and the most reported interest there's been in him for multiple franchises. I kind of feel like it's like the opposite effect for me, where it feels too normal and too routine for Jim Harbaugh to not be here based on what's out there. Now he's telling people he's not going anywhere. I'm just in the camp. I'm going to believe that he's going to be here until he's not anymore. And I think that, I think there's a path to him to get, if there's something he's looking, he does have representation now, which is which is interesting. He hasn't had that before. I think that might play a reason why we're hearing more about, the Broncos are interested and the Colts are interested and the owner from the Panthers has made a call. But I do think it's just, he's just such a unique one-of-one personality that it's hard for me to believe he's going to be anywhere but Michigan, because the most Jim Harbaugh thing that could happen is that you go through this again and he comes back with, you have shot yourself in the foot with momentum heading into the offseason again. That just, to me, that feels like the most normal outcome that will happen out of this.
Yeah, he does zig when everyone else thinks he's going to zag, and zags when everyone thinks he's going to zig. So, I mean, I think that's a fair point. The agent thing is interesting. It's kind of like when a baseball free agent signs Scott Boras as an agent, and it's like that guy's not re-signing with the hometown team. Like, he's going somewhere else because the hometown discount's not going to apply when you hire Scott Boras. But again, you're applying a normal standard of human reading to a completely abnormal human being. So that's why this stuff is so murky, and that's why every year everyone's just shooting blindfolded in the dark. It makes no sense trying to read this guy, but it is kind of fascinating. I want to finish on Harbaugh here. Are you guys in that coterie, the fans, the reporters, the Michigan administration? Are you guys just tired of it? And it's like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Like, just go or stay, just whatever. Just leave me alone. Give me an answer, and whatever you do, you do. Or is there some longing, oh, Jim, don't go? What's sort of the read in general? I know there's different opinions. What's the general tenor there?
I think a lot of people are just tired by it. And I can only really speak, like, I know the pulse of the fan base is, hey, listen, like, if he goes, like, just make it quick. Like, don't drag it out into February like last year. From a media perspective, the thing that we always get thrown our way is, well, here come the pay sites again, drumming up the Harbaugh drama just to get clicks. I have news for you. I can get clicks talking about guys that have NFL draft decisions to make, looking ahead to next year's roster, just tracking Harbaugh's contract. Like, there are a number of ways to get clicks. I don't want to do this. Okay. I have no interest in, I'm just tired of it. I mean, it's been 3 off seasons in a row where you come off the season and now you're just sitting, like, you don't even know if you can go out to dinner or not, because it won't even be from our market. It'll be Adam Schefter tweet at like, 7:30 on a Tuesday that Jim Harbaugh has decided to stay at Michigan. It's like, it's exhausting. It really is exhausting.
Dumb. I hate that. Like, you have legitimate reports. Like, we know, like, the teams are confirming these conversations. Like, these things are happening. Like, what is a Wolverine outlet supposed to do? Just not write that? Like, you would be insane. I like, people are just so, like, there is legitimate clickbait. There's plenty of media people that engage in that. There's plenty of outlets that engage in that. But that doesn't apply here. I mean, that's just, you can dismiss those people.
It's not the, I mean, again, and this isn't a shot. They're part of the On3 family now. Like, if someone goes on the Spartan Mag message boards and says they're hearing about Jim Harbaugh rumors, like, we can kind of write that off. But like, when The Athletic is saying something, like him or not, when Mike Florio says something, if Ian Rappaport says something, this whole narrative of, well, here it comes. These guys have no idea what they're talking about. No, they're talking to people in league sources. They don't roll in the same circles that we do, so they hear different things. So it's just, again, this only the one thing I just keep coming back to is it only happens at Michigan, and it only happens with this head coach, and it's a unique situation. It is again. I'm happy. Like, there's a part of me that is, again, that being a major story gives us something to talk about and, pays the bills, I guess, keeps the light on. But I would rather, I have no interest in drumming up drama or, sifting through rumors. I want to talk about the football team. I'd love to even, talk about the football team. It's basketball season now. Would love to move on to that. It's just this year over year thing. And I don't know. Michigan could give him the Mel Tucker contract and give him a massive buyout. And there's a part of me that thinks that we'd still be here next year. So at this point, it's just, it's part of the gig at this point, but it's not, I'm not sitting over here like, Mr. Burns, glad that this is happening. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I don't blame you. If I like had to cover it, like for my paycheck to clear, it would drive me nuts too. I like to be more dipping my toe in and out whenever I feel like it with the Jim Harbaugh stuff. But as tiring as it is, I do find the guy fascinating. Like I don't know. I'm like one of the few Michigan State fans that'll openly admit I think he's really good. I did not like some of how he handled things this year with Michigan State. Different story, different day. But just as a character to watch and the cover, and it's sort of like, people watch. I think he is fascinating, as frustrating as he can be. So we'll wrap there real quick. No basketball deep dive because I know we're running long, but Saturday, big game coming up. I have no idea what Michigan is. Like, I thought you guys coming in were really talented. Not like a national championship contender, but I thought you'd be a real good team this year, Sweet 16 kind of range. Still possible, I guess, but Michigan's looked like dog shit most of the year. It's like the worst against the spread record in the country, constantly underachieving the number for whatever value you place on that. But then you come out with an extremely impressive win over Maryland. Are they turning a corner? Like, what do you make of Saturday? How do you feel going into that from the Michigan perspective?
I honestly have no idea. It feels like a continuation of last year where it's one night you're going to get guys hitting their shots and being locked in on the defensive end of the floor. And then other nights, the most damning thing about that loss to Central Michigan is that it wasn't surprising because they had played all of their bye games super close throughout the year. I mean, Eastern Michigan gave them a game at LCA. Ohio took them to overtime. Jackson State, they only won by 10. But they would compete against compete and almost beat teams. Like they lost by 1 to Virginia. They went to London and lost by 4 to Kentucky. They were in a game with North Carolina most of the night. So for them, it's an effort thing, that's annoying to talk about in the fourth year of a head coach, that you have to question their effort and their engagement level on a night-to-night basis. I don't know what to make of this team. I know that when you come out of non-conference play at 7-5 and you don't have a signature win, I mean, their one good win in the non-conference was Pittsburgh, they're a little bit better than they were expected to be, but that's still a team in like the 60s on KenPom. So, I mean, the one thing about the Big Ten is that for them, every night out in this league, unless you're playing Minnesota or Nebraska or someone like that, is a chance to kind of add a resume win. If you can get rolling, if you play a week of good basketball or 2 weeks of good basketball in the Big Ten, you can really kind of turn your fortunes around. So for them, it's kind of one game at a time. You got this Penn State game tonight, but as far as Michigan State goes, I mean, I thought both of those teams would be better than they've showed. I know Michigan State has had a little more to do with injuries and stuff, but I haven't seen this Michigan team win the biggest games on its schedule yet. So going into it, I would kind of chalk that one up as an L going into it, but it's one where you kind of have to start winning when you're not supposed to eventually. And we'll see what happens from there. I don't like the inconsistent effort. It seems like they'll play up against the teams they respect. And if they think they have an advantage against another team, they'll kind of just play down to their level. And you can't do that in the Big Ten. So we'll see. Not crazy about roster construction, but I still think they have pieces. I mean, Hunter Dickinson, when he's locked in, is as good as any big man in the country if you can get his best night out of him. Jet Howard is good offensively. Still work in progress on defense. Kobe Buffkin, I think, might be their best all-around player right now. But right now, to me, this is you're going to have to win 13 or 14 games in the Big Ten to even have a chance to make the tournament. And I honestly don't see it with this group.
I'm fascinated. No matter what happens with the scoreboard, I am fascinated Saturday to see the Hunter Dickinson thing with the fans. The Michigan State fans loathe this guy. I mean, it is one of the – honestly, I can't think of someone at this level since Mike Hart in the Michigan State fan base. And the Mike Hart animosity came after his last appearance. Mike Hart never took the field when that animosity was there. He was already done. He was gone as far as the Michigan State rivalry is concerned. That's not the case here. I mean, Dickinson called us all a bunch of dumb monkeys, basically. So I think that's going to be interesting. I hope his SpongeBob SquarePants biceps are ready to flex because that crowd's going to be ready for him Saturday. That's going to be, to me, the most interesting subplot is, the villain going into the hornet's nest. And if he plays his ass off and Michigan wins, that's going to make for some interesting theater with, he's going to be yucking that up with the crowd and making faces at them. Conversely, if Michigan gets their doors blown off and he plays poorly, it's going to be about as vile as it can get probably. So that's what I'm most interested in on Saturday.
Well, and again, not to take a shot or become the villain in Michigan fandom or anything, but if he goes out and plays his ass off on Saturday in a game that Michigan needs to win, it will be the first time this year that he's done that. So would love to see it, honestly. Even last year, if I remember correctly, Michigan State kind of took it to Michigan at Breslin last year. And I remember Juwan Howard after the game was like, well, my guys still had 28 and 14 or something, but they lost by a ton. So it was like,
yeah, but Dickinson shot. I mean, he shot like 9 out of 29 or something. I mean, he shot like in the low 30%. I'm pretty sure it was definitely like under 40. So it was the least efficient output ever. I mean, he was bad. He took every shot that game. I don't care who you are. If you're a D1 Big Ten starting player, if you take 25 shots, you're going to have a decent point total at the end of the day. But
he was 8 for 19 for the record. So.
Well, I have to exaggerate a little bit. What is that? He was 8 for 19. That seems like way much higher than in my head. In my head, it was like 8 for 30, but still not great for a 7-footer. I mean, well below 50. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. The venom will be there in full force on Saturday. No matter what happens, obviously, I have a rooting interest in one direction. But even if I don't get my way, that'll be kind of interesting too. I think you could have no skin in the game at all. And the Dickinson thing, I mean, the guy savaged the entire university. That's just a fan base that he was insulting little professors that are working on like in the chem lab. Like even they were dragged into this somehow with his "you can't get in the Michigan routine." So I mean, he attacked everybody. People had nothing to do with this rivalry. So I think that'll be the most interesting subplot. I think Michigan State wins on Saturday. And depending on how the teams are looking, obviously, because a lot can change, I think they probably do the home and home split just like last year. They're both flawed teams, but I can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be fun. Anthony, I appreciate you. Keep your head on straight with this Harbaugh stuff. I know it's spinning like crazy, all you guys that have to cover this stuff for a living. I appreciate you making time. I know you're busy.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Anthony Broome. This is Justin Spiro off the curb. Thanks, Ben. We'll see you next time.